The USG has escalated sanctions on Russia since 2014 in response to Russia's incursions into and invasion of Ukraine, cyber attacks, malign influence, use of chemical weapons, and election meddling. Most economic sanctions are imposed using authority delegated to the President in the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, and the National Emergencies Act, NEA. Under IEEPA, the President generally issues an executive order declaring a national emergency under the NEA. So in this video, we are going to tell you the top 3 Russian plans that need to be stopped. The video is going to be amazing, so make sure you stick to the end. Before starting the video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. Top 3. Number 1. Draft Ukraine citizen to war. Russian President Vladimir Putin is giving directions directly to generals in the field, carports. According to 2 sources familiar with American and Western intelligence that spoke to CNN, the direct orders from Putin to generals hints at the dysfunctional command structure that has affected Russian forces on the battlefield. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban wants EU sanctions on Russia lifted by the end of the year, a pro-government daily newspaper said Thursday. Orban, who has sought close ties with Russian President Vladimir Putin in recent years, has frequently railed against the sanctions which were imposed on Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. Many of the Ukrainians exchanged in the largest prisoner swap with Russia since the beginning of the invasion show signs of violent torture. The head of Ukraine's military intelligence said Thursday. On Wednesday, Ukraine announced the exchange of a record-high 215 imprisoned soldiers with Russia, including fighters who led the defense of Mariupol's Azovstal steelworks that became an icon of Ukrainian resistance. Britain's Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, said that he is not surprised that Russia's Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, walked out of a UN Security Council meeting. "I'm not surprised," Cleverly said at the UN, saying, "I don't think Mr. Lavrov wants to hear the collective condemnation of this council." According to 2 sources familiar with American and Western intelligence that spoke to CNN, the direct orders from Putin to generals hints at the dysfunctional command structure that has affected Russian forces on the battlefield. Kremlin officials and state media pundits have been feverishly discussing the reasons for the failure in Kharkiv, and in typical fashion, the Kremlin seems to be attempting to deflect the blame away from Putin and onto the Russian military, the official said. Number 2. Airstrikes. Ordinary Russians are increasingly counting the cost of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine and can see ever more clearly how badly Putin has misjudged the situation, according to a senior British spy chief, Sir Jeremy Fleming, head of the British Cyber Intelligence Unit GCHQ, called Vladimir Putin's decision to invade Ukraine a high-stakes strategy, where the costs to Russia in people and equipment are staggering, and the Russian population has started to understand that. The Russian population is, meanwhile, fleeing the draft, realizing they can no longer travel. They know their access to modern technologies and external influences will be drastically restricted, and they are feeling the extent of the dreadful human cost of Putin's war of choice, Fleming added. Fleming's remarks come after Russia launched a series of missile attacks on Ukrainian cities, which Putin said was retaliation for the explosion over the weekend that collapsed part of the Kerch Bridge connecting Russia and the occupied Crimean Peninsula. Nearly 8 months into his war against Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin appears to be striking a softer tone, saying he sees no need for continued massive airstrikes and that mobilization of troops to support his military operation will end in 2 weeks. Number 1. Nuclear missiles warfare. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian officials have begun to prepare their society for the possible use of nuclear weapons, but added he does not believe Russia is ready to use them. In an interview with the BBC, President Zelensky denied having urged strikes on Russia, claiming that an earlier remark had been mistranslated. In recent weeks, the Ukrainian army has recaptured large swaths of territory in a successful counteroffensive that has forced Russian troops to abandon long-held positions. In what Kyiv describes as Moscow's response to its defeats, President Vladimir Putin has incorporated 4 partially occupied regions of Ukraine. The annexations, widely dismissed as illegal, have raised fears of a possible escalation in the 7-month war. President Putin and other senior Russian officials have suggested that nuclear weapons, possibly smaller tactical weapons, couldn't be used to defend those areas, although Western officials say there has been no evidence Moscow was prepared to do so. After that translation, President Zelensky said, "They, the Russians, did their way, how it's useful for them," and began to retranslate it in other directions. The interview happened hours after U.S. President Joe Biden said that the Russian threat to use nuclear weapons had brought the world closer to Armageddon than at any time since the Cuban Missile Crisis during the Cold War. Nuclear missiles welfare is the top plan of Russians. Sectoral sanctions apply to specific entities in Russia's financial, energy, and defense sectors. U.S. persons are restricted from engaging in specific transactions with these designated entities. Restrictions apply to new equity investment and financing for entities in Russia's financial sector, and new financing for identified entities in Russia's energy and defense sectors. Let us know your opinion in the comments section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.